Welcome to the Agent 251 podcast, the real estate show that looks deep into the work and culture at JWRE, Jason Will Real Estate, in Mobile and Baldwin counties. Jason, Agent 251, investigates and spills the beans on his case closing clues and industry secrets for motivating agents while educating buyers and sellers.
Hey everybody, it's Jason Will. This is the Agent 251 podcast. I'm with my beautiful co-host and wife, the gloriously beautiful Diana Will.
Hello.
So I like to say that our real estate company, that we're in the marketing business, but we just, happen to specialize in selling real estate. So if you're in the marketing business, I think you're in the first impression business, right? You've got to make a good first impression of the product you're trying to sell. And so today we're talking about home staging and how a staged home, sells significantly faster than a non-staged home. So what is it about the staging process that helps deliver that stellar first impression? And our guest on our show is Jana Rae Ryan. She is a staging expert who has a very sexy radio voice.
Oh my God.
And she's been doing this for 5 years. And she really gets irritated if you don't say Jana Rae. You can't just say, if you see her on the street, you can't just say Jana because she's going to correct you. So I want to emphasize this. It's Jana Rae Ryan.
Thank you, Jason Will.
You're welcome.
He's so bad.
Diana and I can opine on staging. I'm a listing agent by trade. Diana is a buyer's agent by trade. We know what it takes, but the reality of it is, it takes somebody, like Jana, who is a professional, to come in there. Like when you tell people what to do, they listen to what you have to say. You're that expert third party. So that's why we're glad and grateful that you joined us today, so you can educate us on this process. So,
thank you for having me.
How do you describe staging when you go to meet a new client?
Well, when you're selling your home, it is a commitment to marketing it. It is your greatest commodity, your home is. And so you want it to look its best. It's kind of a black tie affair. You would not go to a black tie affair in a T-shirt and jeans. So when you're marketing your house and it's your greatest commodity, you want it to look its best. So there's several things about that you're going to want to do to get it there. When people are looking at a house, there's a lot of things they're looking for. First and foremost is it right fit for them? And there's, but once they get past that, you've got to present it in its best possible light, and make it more likely that you're going to get that offer from your buyers.
I think that there's still so much inventory on the market that it's a process of elimination. I mean, it's actually human nature for them to focus on the negatives.
That's right.
And it starts at the front door, right? When you're handling the lockbox, trying to get the key out of the lockbox, they're looking up and looking for the wasp's nest and the bugs in the light above the front door. They're just looking for little things.
It starts before the front door. It really does start when you pull up in the driveway.
Well, and to back it up even a notch, it actually starts online with your photos. And so a well-staged home is going to photograph in its best possible light. Fast forwarding to pulling up into the driveway, at that point, when people are looking around, and they are, while you're getting that lockbox open, like you said, they are scrutinizing it to every inch because they're about to put out a large sum of money, generally speaking, and so they want to make sure they're getting the best bang for their buck, so to speak. So they are comparing it with every other house they've looked at and every other house that they think they're going to see. When you've got that house that the paint isn't chipped and the cobwebs are swept away, people all of a sudden assume that it's a well-maintained home. And they make assumptions about the rest of the house and its condition, whether or not they see all those things or not. So it's important to put their mind at ease and take away any, if they see problems initially when they're walking in on the exterior, they're going to be looking for more problems as they go through, as opposed to looking for all the positive aspects.
We still use that line all the time that James, one of the best professional real estate photographers in the area, uses, that web appeal is the new curb appeal.
Absolutely.
And that's true. You're right. The first showing actually happens online. And it's funny. You and I haven't really talked real estate in a few years, but since that time we've started using 3-dimensional technology. So people can actually do these 3D virtual tours where they're actually walking through the home. I mean, they can scan up and look at the ceiling to see if there's any water spots on the ceiling, for goodness sakes.
And they do.
Yeah.
They look for all the issues.
Yeah, absolutely. So, that is critical. But why do you think that the majority of sellers take a wait-and-see approach?
Well, I think a lot of times it's very, very difficult to detach yourself from your home. You take a lot of pride in it. We feel like its value, and its value is wrapped up in all of the memories that we've had there, all the birthdays, all the Christmas, all the children we've raised, depending on how long you've been in the house. But people take all of their experiences and they feel like, well, it's been good enough for me. This is going to be, why do I need to do anything different? So, and if it doesn't sell right away, then I'll, think about doing something later. But unfortunately, you can miss the opportunity to actually make that sale because to quote, you never get a second chance to make a first impression. And if you've listed your house for sale and you've had the photos taken and you haven't staged it in its best light, then you've already missed your first opportunity.
And I think Diana could speak to this. When you go out and you're showing buyers 5, 6, 7, 10 homes in a day, they all start to kind of run together. So it's the ones, correct me if I'm wrong, they're in the best condition that actually stand out in the mind of the buyer.
That's right. And to go back to what Jana Rae said, a savvy realtor will have known that this house was for sale by owner. If this is something that they do full time, and they're going to, it's their responsibility to do the due diligence for their clients. They're going to say this house sat on the market for 6 months or 7 months or however long. And so there's instantly going to be that thought of what's wrong with it,
And why isn't it selling? And I'm assuming then, I'm not a real estate expert, but then I have to assume that that's where they start looking for that drop in price.
That's right.
As opposed to walking into a house that's presented and you just are wowed. That is one of the main focuses for staging, is to present the house, and as I said, in the best light. You want buyers to walk in and connect emotionally and see themselves living there. And oh my gosh, I can see myself. We're having, we're going to have the Christmas tree, and this is, I'm going to read the paper here in this spot. And once they connect emotionally, the hook is kind of in. And then, of course, they have to look at the things like the inspection and make sure that the walls are sturdy, et cetera, that sort of thing. But if they're not connected with the house emotionally, they're not going to even look to the next step, to make sure it's in sound condition physically. So, houses are bought on emotion.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's true.
And this is the line I always just get as a listing agent when I would talk to a seller about, making these repairs, doing these, finishing touches, really preparing the home for market in preparation for a quick sale. They would say, oh, you just want a quick check. You just want to get paid quickly and be done with me. Well, we know that, time is money in real estate. So the longer it sits on the market, the question is, what's wrong with it? And also, it's a willpower issue. The seller, if they get an offer the first week, they're going to be much more stern in their negotiations than if they get an offer 9 months down the road. Mm-hmm. They're going to be like, oh, let's just get rid of it. So there's a profitability aspect of this that's crucial. The faster they sell it, the more net profit they're going to get in a return. So it just makes a lot of sense. And, it's just baffling to me because if you go to sell your vehicle, you take it up to the dealership, you're not going to take it there after you've been mud riding,
right,
with a bunch of and a bunch of McDonald's bags in the back seat stuff. You're going to dress it up a little bit and take it there. But too often than not, we have sellers that are just like, let's just put it on the market with
and see what happens.
Laundry everywhere and it smelling like animals.
Mm-hmm.
Pet odors are a big deal.
Absolutely.
It's not just, whether the walls are painted funky colors. It's how does it look, feel, and smell? These are the big factors in it. I don't know. That's always confusing to me when they don't want to do something to make it sell faster and for more money.
Well, again, I think sometimes people, this is a new thing, especially in our market. In other markets, it's commonplace. Obviously, HGTV, we all know that because it's on every channel or every television show that they have. You see it all the time, so it's commonplace in other markets. But here, it just hasn't quite gotten as strong as the other markets. And so people they take that wait and see approach. It's kind of an old school style of selling your house. But you're absolutely right. You would never take your car to see how much money you could get from it from the dealer with it not in its best condition. And you would wash it and do everything you could to make it look nice. But again, I think people get so emotionally attached to their homes, it's very difficult to separate and realize that, you have left the place of it being your personal home to now your biggest asset, your biggest commodity, and you need to market it as such. It's no more, you've got to draw the line in the sand there once you decide to sell it.
Well, I think the other thing, too, we want this show to be kind of a two-part, educational process, one for the consumer, one for the real estate agent, maybe they're a new agent or they've been in the business wanting to, elevate their income. But I think it kind of is the nature of the business. We're a 100% commission industry. You get an opportunity to list a home, you don't want to rock the boat. You don't want to go in there and say, it smells like cat pee in here. You just don't. They can be sitting there smoking a cigarette in front of you. You're like, I just really want this listing. Keep smoking it. You don't want to do that. But the reality of it is you're not doing anybody any favors by not telling them what they need to know, not what they just want to hear.
Well, and that's, again, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but that's, again, where the professional stager can come in, because it is, our job to speak to the clients as the professional, and we can, go in and generally do a consultation with the client and let them kind of gently explain these things in a way to let them know that it's not you, it's not a personal. We now are taking your home and making it marketable. It has nothing to do with your taste. How you live is one way, one thing. How you stage a house is another. We stage a house to sell it. It's not the same thing as living in it. Design is for living in. Staging is for selling. Again, we have to educate the clients on separating personally and emotionally and getting it ready for the market.
Yeah, I agree. It's if you've got that third-party person that provides an opinion, they're just much more likely to listen to your advice. And it kind of takes the pressure off of you as the agent. But, a lot of times, agents just don't know, like you said, that this is new to our market. Mm-hmm. They don't know that it exists. They don't know the statistics. And they just, again, are deathly afraid of losing the opportunity. So they're just going to go in there and talk about things that are non-threatening. And they just set the listing up for failure, which is a shame. I like to go in there and soften this up and just ask sellers for their permission to be honest with them. Are you looking for an agent that's just going to tell you what you want to hear or what you need to know? And 9 times out of 10, they're going to be like, please, give me all the honesty I can take. The last agents that have come through here just give me nothing but fluff, and I'm starving for honesty. And you deliver the information in a very humble way.
Absolutely.
So you don't be mean about it. You just softly deliver it. And if they do take offense, then you just remind them, hey, you gave me permission to be honest with you.
Well, and again, it's not. It has nothing to do with. You're not attacking their personal style. All of the different things. We live differently than we stage our houses. And when we are staging a house, we're trying to appeal to the masses. So we have to set up a house in a way that. The colors on the wall, the furniture, the arrangement of it, we're looking to create an environment that, 90% of our buyers are going to want, as opposed to a select group. So it's not a personal attack on anyone's personal style whatsoever. It's trying to appeal to the masses. So we've got to take that personal style out and just present it in a simplistic way that shows each area has purpose.
Buyers have a hard time seeing the potential of a home. They have a hard time putting on their rose-colored glasses. And I think the process, too, is a little bit overwhelming. But, Diana, what are some of the things, some of the common mistakes you think that you see sellers making prior to putting their home on the market, like really not being purposeful about getting their home ready for market?
Well, I think it's important to think about the demographics of who your buyer is. If you have 4-bedroom houses with 3 bedrooms upstairs, appealing to a family is what you need to do. You don't need to have every bedroom set up like a guest bedroom and appeal to an older couple who's probably not going to buy a house with steps. So I think really thinking about who your buyer is and staging it appropriately, I think would be the number one step. But a lot of people don't, because they they're thinking of where they are and where they're going, not of who is coming in. And so I think that if you can get behind that and remember why you bought that house and where you were in life, and appealing to those people, I think that's where you get the biggest win and the biggest bang for your buck, and you're able to make the best first impression.
That's awesome. But what are some other little things I think that they overlook in terms of getting the home ready to be shown? Because I think it's key that, for instance, they don't leave dishes in the sink. They don't leave laundry strewn around the house. What have you heard buyers say things like, I can't believe they didn't pick that up before the showing?
Yes. All of it. It all needs to be picked up. One of the things that one of our top producing agents does is she gives everybody a little bucket, and it's got Clorox wipes, and there's one for each room, and everything comes off the counter and goes under in the microwave, in the oven, wherever it needs to go, but everything needs to come off the counter. Everything just needs to be wiped down every morning, and you have it clean. And what I say is your house every day needs to look like Oprah's coming. Not your mama, Oprah. She's coming with the camera crew, and it needs to look like you're ready for her. And if it's not, then you're not ready. And it needs to be that way for photos, after staging, and every day. And so, if you can just sort of get that in the back of your mind that that's what it needs to look like. And it does take work. It's not fun to be on the market for a long time. But if you do it right from the beginning, you won't be on the market for a long time. You're not going to have to prepare for Oprah, for very many days. And it just makes it easier. But decluttering, all of your personal pictures need to come off the wall and come off the countertops and all of that. Making sure that the small spaces in your home are tidied. I think one of the most effective things you can do, like in a kid's room, is buy those little cubicle things with the bins, and you can literally dump it in there, but it looks pretty. And so if you can just get in the mind of, how Pottery Barn would decorate their shelves, if this was Pottery Barn, that's what the buyers want to see. They want to see it clean and tidy and have really unique ideas of how they could decorate their house and keep it tidy too.
Well, that's the vision that most buyers are coming into a home with, is Pottery Barn. We call them Pottery Barn buyers.
That's right.
I mean, that's the lens that they're looking through. And if we make that point that, that they are focusing on the negative so that they can eliminate some of these options and narrow the focus, because they're overwhelmed by the process, they're overwhelmed by the number of options they have. They've got to get this list into a manageable number. So it just makes sense. So I think we've made the point with the sellers and the potential sellers. Like, if you have a home that's been on the market and isn't selling, you either look at two things: it's price or condition. So if you're priced right and it's not selling, you need to look at some of these staging issues that we've talked about. But I want to jump back to the agents for a second, kind of hammer this home, because we've talked about the photography, and Diana just mentioned photos. I had a local agent here in the Mobile market direct me to, her company's Facebook page, and I went to that Facebook page, and there was a lot of great listings on there. But it appeared that those homes had been photographed with cell phones. And, a lot of people ask us, like, why is JWRE coming to the Mobile market? You're so successful in Baldwin County. Why wouldn't you just stay in that county and dominate? And it's because there is a glaring amount of opportunity in Mobile. When an agent's saying, hey, look at how many listings my company does. And I'm like, sure, yeah, I'm a marketing guy. Let me check out your company's Facebook page. I always want to see what the competition's doing. And I look at that page, and every single listing on there has pictures that were taken with a cell phone. So what is it about, the state of the Mobile marketing mindset that says that's okay? Is that just because they're not passionate about what they do, or do they not know any better? Jana works, for a local agent here who's, who understands that. You guys hire a professional photographer to take pictures of all your listings.
Yes. Yes, we do.
But couldn't you do that? Couldn't you pick up a camera and do it halfway decent?
No. I could pick up a camera, but I can tell you that the photographs are not going to be good. And the other problem with that is that these same people that are shooting with their cell phone, oftentimes you'll see the toilet seat up, which is a small example, but you'll see a dog in the picture. That indicates right there to somebody who's allergic to dogs or doesn't like pets that the houses might have odor, or the dog may have peed on the carpet in multiple places. And, so you don't want to advertise the negatives. So, no, I would not recommend taking pictures with a cell phone.
Well, one thing I know that a lot of people appreciate from James is that he's not going to take a picture of a love seat or a lazy boy with a towel draped over
Right.
it. He will go and pick all that
Right.
stuff up.
He's so good.
He moves
so
things
good.
around.
He's so good.
Yeah, let's give James a plug. So James Avera of Avera Design,
He's great.
probably the top real estate photographer on the Alabama Gulf Coast. He's gotten so popular that he even works as far as New Orleans, as far west as New Orleans, and as far east as Destin. And we unfortunately don't use him as much because he has gotten so popular. But a lot of these staging, just the basic primal staging, foundational staging things, we learn from him. He actually has a couple pages that he's given to me to give to homeowners prior that says, here's some things you need to do to get the home ready for market. That is a huge help to give that just in advance and say, and I actually asked him, I was like, can we incorporate this in my listing presentation? And he said, yes. So it is we've got a book that's 7 Steps to Sold.
Yeah.
And it's those 2 pages are in the book.
And staging a home is, it's something that the seller rather can do a lot of the steps themselves. I mean, staging is about decluttering, putting away personal effects, making sure the house is clean. Like Diana said, you want to wipe down the countertops, put away the toys, get the dog out, that sort of thing. So,
well, I would just hammer home so we don't get off the topic here for agents that are listening, for them to understand that the National Association of Realtors does research every day. It's an annual report, an annual buyer and seller report. And one of the key factors that they look at is marketing. So where should an agent, be spending their marketing dollars? And a lot of people gripe about our NAR dues, but they do provide us with a lot of great research. And the thing at the top of the list, year in and year out, is photos. So the agent can screw a lot of things up. The photos shouldn't be one of them.
right.
So it's more than taking a picture with a dog in it, because a lot of times the pictures are dark.
Right.
They're not well lit. It's
Right.
not a wide angle lens, so the person at home who's looking on their laptop can't tell how one room transitions to the next. The photos are taken either too early in the morning or too late in the evening. That the agents don't even know how to invest in a $10 software that would actually make their cell phone photos look semi-professional. So I wanted to stress with them that as more home buyers, more home sellers, and we know that we're looking at, plus 94% are starting their search online, that they're getting keenly aware of the issue of the photos. And so they're watching. And a lot of times what happens is, the research shows that a buyer spends 6 to 7 seconds deciding whether the home they see online is one they really want to see. And a seller can have their listing bypassed because the photos are too dark.
Absolutely.
So to me, when we talk about fiduciary duty, we have a fiduciary duty. It begins as a listing agent with the marketing, and we have to be passionate about that. So I try to come from curiosity too, to figure out why agents not being trained to know how important this is, because maybe they'll look at a listing that the photos were terrible and it sold in a week. So, that one was probably priced really, really well.
Right.
Probably.
So, we're talking about price, condition, presentation, all those things being, the top key factors that get a home sold. But the other thing is that you're as a real estate agent, you're creating a body of work. And when that agent directed me back to that Facebook page, I'm looking at the body of work of the entire company, and I'm not seeing something that as a consumer I would be inspired by. I wouldn't be inspired to hire this company by what I saw on that Facebook page, but to her it was something to be kind of proud of.
Well, I think to her, she was proud of the quantity, not the quality.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking when you said.
Think that people get wrapped up in the agent mindset. It's how many houses I sell or how many houses I list. And, having 200 signs in the ground is fabulous. But if you don't get paid on any of them
Right.
because you don't know how to market and you don't hire a professional, you've done nothing but waste a lot of time, a lot of money, and build a really bad reputation.
Yeah, the agents that come to us, and I will tell them things, I will make bold statements like, I can help you double your business. And they're like, how in the world are you going to do that? And it's the little things. It's the little things.
It's attention to detail.
Yeah,
and
it
the small
really is.
things that go into it. Because marketing a house, as we're sitting here talking about, it's multi-components. It's not just one thing. It's not getting the listing, putting the sign in the ground, end of story. It's the pictures, it's the presentation, it's the price, it's all of those things.
Yeah, and I think that's part of, our job description is to have those difficult conversations with a seller and say, listen, you really need to fix this. We can't leave this out there. And sometimes it's a money issue. They don't have all the resources to do everything they need to do. And I think in that case, what would you recommend? Maybe prioritize the list?
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of the things, like I said, you can do on your own. You can clean the house. It just takes elbow grease. You don't have to hire a professional cleaner to come in and do deep cleaning. You can do that yourself. You can do some of the packing yourself. But yes, you want to make sure structurally things are, broken. If you have a light switch that's no longer working, you probably ought to fix that. But the cosmetic updates, yes, I would prioritize what you can do and get those done. You don't want a leaky roof, that sort of thing. And then, but you can paint yourself. You can do those things yourself. It takes work, but selling a house no one ever said it was going to be easy.
Yes, there's plenty of sweat equity stuff
Absolutely.
that you can do.
Absolutely.
Diane and I think we get it because we have a home a rental house we may or may not sell. We've tried to sell it a couple times in the downturn, and some of the times we put it on the market that with rooms that need to be painted. We have fallen victim to this ourselves. And so that's the brutal truth of it. But
and my real estate agent, he'll price it at the top of the market.
Yeah.
Diana's very frugal.
He took the wait and see approach.
Right. We did.
Yeah.
And how did that work out for you?
It didn't work out at all.
We have fabulous renters in there and a positive cash flow, so it's still fine.
We do.
That's okay.
So
Good
it's
deal.
not a desperate situation,
Right.
but we ourselves have fallen victim to that. So, I understand it, but it's all failing forward and reinforcing the fact that.
Right.
So now when we talk about putting it back on the market, if we decide to do it, because it does rent very, very well, it's like, all right, where do we need to invest the money? Mm-hmm. Is it floors? Is it painting? We need to do some stuff to get it, to dress it up a little bit.
Well, and when buyers walk in and they see that, home in great condition, from a paint standpoint, from a clean, the floors look good, they, again, make assumptions about the entire overall condition of the house, and they're emotionally connected with it immediately. And they continue to look forward, and they look for the positive things. Some of the things that may be negatives are things that they can overlook because there's so many things that they like that drive them forward towards purchasing it.
Yeah, and they're very suspicious. Buyers
Absolutely.
are very suspicious.
Yeah.
It even gets worse if you're dealing with a first-time home buyer.
Yeah.
And they're armored with so much information.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
you can go back to every person who bought this home, what mortgage they took out on it, how long it sat on the market. They go knock on next door neighbors' houses and find out why this person sold. I mean, sold. They find out everything, and so you really have to come to the market prepared and looking good. Right. Would you say that paint and cleanliness is the top two things people need to?
Well, it's definitely important, and I know a lot of people, they hesitate. They think, I don't want to pay somebody to paint it, and I don't want to deal with what's wrong with the pink in here or something. And, it's, again, just goes back to appealing to the masses and that fresh paint. Paint is the least expensive way to make the greatest impact on the design overall of the house. It's the cheapest thing you can do. And if you do it yourself, then, even better. Painters can, be a little bit more expensive, but it is worth the investment to have a fresh coat of paint for sure. So, yes.
So in terms of, we've been talking about homes that are actually staged, technically.
Occupied.
They're occupied with the seller's belongings. But, we get questions a lot about what about that vacant home? And sometimes the seller will be relocating before they conclude the sale, and they'll say, what should I leave behind? Should I even leave furniture behind, or should I just take everything out of it so that the buyer can really visualize the space of the rooms? But I think the reality is that when you take everything out, the home gets smaller.
Yes,
it does.
It does. And when you have furniture in the home, it again helps these potential buyers see how their furniture is going to fit. It takes away any questions about, is my sofa going to fit on that wall, or will my bed fit in here?
Or even how do you set up the room?
How do you set up the room? I had a prime example of a house with an angled wall that even the builder himself, once I staged it, he was like, oh, wow, I would have never thought to have put the sofa in that area. And so it gives, it takes out again any guessing and how do I do this? And it actually does make the house feel bigger. That being said, though, I don't want potential buyers or even agents that are listening to this to think, oh my gosh, I can't possibly, stage an entire house. Well, you don't really have to do that. The key areas that you'd want to take care of would be, your living room, the master bedroom, kitchen and bathrooms, that kind of thing. And you don't need anything huge in your kitchen and bathrooms, more just fresh towels, clean, things like that. You don't need to stage every bedroom, offices, or you don't need to set up a nursery or set up an office space. If you have the additional funds and you can do that, great, but you don't have to. Most of the time buyers can see, this is a bedroom, it will work. But the master bedroom, on the other hand, that is the person that's writing the check,
that's right,
writing the offer. And you want to draw them into that spa-like oasis where they can see themselves relaxing. This is my new master suite. You want it to be ooh la la, for lack of a better. Lots of, yes, you want to put a bed in there for sure.
I think that's where the rubber meets the road with staging, is that it's always looked at like they can't afford it. Mm-hmm. But even if people were to go onto Google and do the research and look at the statistics, and they could see how much more stage homes, how faster they sell, how much more profit the seller nets by going through this process, it still really doesn't resonate because it's money out of pocket.
Right. But, and this is where the two of you would be the experts and not myself. But, what would you say the general first price reduction is in a home? $10,000, is that a safe ballpark, or is that?
Typically 6 to 10%.
6 to 10%.
Okay. If we're off and we don't have showings or offers within the first 14 days, studies show that you're 6 to 10% off.
Well, and generally speaking, your staging is going to cost less than your first price reduction. So even though you are putting the money out up front, it's, you're looking to secure that offer up front as opposed to the first price reduction and then taking a lower, overall sale point for the house.
And that's if it sells after the first reduction.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, and then that comes back to the agent of making those points and telling them what they need to hear. Being a good steward of the seller's finances.
Absolutely.
And that's part of making these points if it's not something that's ever talked about. So, that needs to be put out there front and center, how important it is. But you go back to agents, not wanting to rock the boat. If they feel like, actually telling the seller what they need to know, not necessarily what they want to hear, is going to jeopardize their ability to take the listing, the price reductions that's right there at the top of the list. They don't want to say, hey, after 2 weeks, and if it doesn't sell, we're 6 or 10% off, and we're going to need to do, $5,000 to $10,000 price reduction. That's not what's happening. That's not the reality of the conversation that's happening, because the realtors are scared to death to say anything that's going to jeopardize their opportunity to get the listing. And certainly talking about a price reduction at the listing appointment is, at the top of that list of scary things you don't want to talk to a seller about when you first meet them. But the reality is that, coming from, again, we're a marketing-based company, price reductions, that's a marketing tool. And my thought process on this is that if you don't talk about these things, if you don't tell the seller what they need to know, that they need to do some staging things, they need to declutter, the house needs to have you need to have a minimalist approach to market, it's going to come back to bite you. Because if you come back 2 weeks later and you've never mentioned a price reduction, and then you say, hey, guess what? We need a price reduction, you've lost them. Mm-hmm. Even if the house sells a month later, they won't refer any business to you. You've already lost credibility. Right. Even if they don't verbalize it, they're thinking it. Like, if you knew that was going to be a possibility, why didn't you tell me?
Mm-hmm. Well, and then too, and that's only if they actually go back 2 weeks later. Typically what happens is they list a house, they don't set proper expectations, and then you don't hear from them again, and then it's 3 months. That's what we hear. They put a sign in the ground. I never heard from them. They never showed my house. And that was it. Yeah. And so what I found early on in my career is that if I could set the expectation up front, I never had to be the bad guy.
Right.
And I never had to deliver that sort of information. And so I set it early and often.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you do that, then it's not uncomfortable 2 weeks later to have to go back and say, we need to do this, we need to do this. But they don't. And so there's this fear of rejection and fear of getting fired instantly.
Well, we even have sellers that tell us, that say, we were actually reaching out to our agent to suggest a price reduction, and the agent was saying, no, it's fine, just leave it there. And it's like, oh my gosh, they're asking you, like, hey, should we hire a stager? Like, hey, should we get the floors, refinished? Should we reduce the price? And the agent's going, no, I think we just need a couple more weeks on the market. So what I find is that if a sign has been in the ground for too long, that there is not an honest conversation that's going on. There is a wait and see approach on both sides. So sometimes it's the seller who is like, doesn't want to do anything, just wants to have the wait and see approach. And sometimes it's the agent, sometimes it's a combination of both of them, just wanting to have this wait and see approach. There needs to be a plan. If you want to have success at anything, you need a plan. And the plan needs to vary if you're not having success. Mm-hmm. So it all goes back to the days on market. If the average days on market, homes are selling in 76 days and you're in day 77 and something hadn't happened, it's price or condition. It's just that simple. So we need to evaluate those things. All right, everybody, I think that's a wrap. I think we've covered everything we need to cover. I really appreciate you being here, Jen. I know you're a really busy lady, so thank you so much for being here. Everybody, again, if you see her on the street, on the sidewalk, it's Jana Rae. And then obviously we have the beautiful Diana Will. So thank you, everybody, for being here.
Thank you. Y'all have a good day.
You.
All right, goodbye.
Well, that wraps up another Agent 251 podcast. Thanks so much for listening. You can find our show on iTunes, any place you get your podcast fix. We really appreciate the listening, and please share it with your friends. This show has been paid for and powered by JWRE, Jason Will Real Estate. You can find Jason, Diana, and the whole JWRE team on the internet and Facebook. And everybody, have a great and productive and happy week.